Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being
Roland, the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, January 12, 2024, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The apparent suicide of Lincoln University of Missouri's Vice President of Student Affairs is sparking outrage and calls for the resignation of the school's president. Allegations of bullying may be what led Dr. Antoinette Bailey to commit suicide. The president of Lincoln University's National Alumni Association will be here to tell us what alums want to see happen. The 911 calls in the Mississippi case with 11-year-old Aderrien Murry, who was shot by a cop on a domestic violence call, raises questions about the cop who shot him and what actually took place that day. We're going to play those calls for you. The family attorney, Carlos Moore, is going to be with us to talk about the various discrepancies. Attorney Ben Crump is complaining about a mass grave found behind a Mississippi jail where more than 200 people were found. Some family members say they didn't even know their loved ones were even there. The white supremacist who killed 10 black folks and injured 3 in the 2022 mass shooting in Buffalo is going to be facing the death penalty in his federal trial. And millions will see more debt relief from the Biden administration's SAVE program. We'll tell you if you qualify. Plus, the U.S. and the U.K. launched strikes against the Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen on Thursday. National security expert Dr. Nola Haynes will join us to talk about this strike. Plus, a sad update to one of our Black and Missing stories. Also, I have a suggestion for you on this MLK weekend in Roland's Book Club. I'll share that with you as well. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now.
Folks, for the last 24 hours, a number of people have been on my social media talking about the apparent suicide of a beloved VP for Student Affairs at Lincoln University in Missouri. Her name is Dr. Antoinette Candia-Bailey. Okay, she died by suicide on January 8th. People have been suggesting that it was bullying from the university's president, Dr. John Mosley, that led to her suicide. Folks are demanding that the president also resign. And Lincoln University, Missouri is a historically black college university. It's now a predominantly white institution. Today, the Lincoln University Board of Curators announced Dr. Mosley volunteered to be placed on paid administrative leave while a third party reviews the school's personnel processes. According to those close to Dr. Bailey, she was subjected to a toxic work environment, enduring alleged bullying and harassment from President Mosley and other university officials. Despite her numerous attempts to seek support and address the issue, Dr. Bailey was allegedly left unsupported and disregarded. She penned a letter on the day she died, detailing the bullying she faced after disclosing her mental illness to university officials. This here is a letter here, folks. Joining us right now from Atlanta is Lincoln University's National Alumni Association President, Dr. Sherman Bonds, who wrote this letter, folks, calling the school's current leadership a liability. This letter has been circulating on social media as well, and folks, of course, have been talking about this. So glad to have you with us. So first of all, were you aware of these issues between Dr. Bailey and President Mosley prior to her death? Can you hear me? All right. Sherman, can you hear me? All right, so we're having an issue here with Sherman Bond's audio. We're going to go ahead and get that checked out. Again, folks, do y'all have the letter that she penned? Okay, I'm saying, do you have it in the control room? Okay, all right, so let me do this here, folks. I want to pull that up because I want to be able to share it with you. You know, we were sent a number of documents, folks, from the family of Dr. Candia-Bailey that, again, she shared. And there were all sorts of messages that were shared, that were sent, that went out as well. Like I said, she... So this here, I'm trying to see here. I want to go ahead and make sure that this is the correct letter here. And like I say, this has really been talked about by a lot of different people. This here is an email that took place between President Mosley as well as with Candia-Bailey here. You'll see right here from John Mosley to Candia-Bailey. He talked about her various comments, issues in her personnel file. Go ahead and go to my iPad, please. And so this is what it shows right here. Okay, come on, pull it up, guys. Thank you. And so you see right here. And so you see the various emails going back and forth with her and the university president on a variety of issues that was shared with us. And so that was with her and President John Mosley of Lincoln University. Do we have Sherman Bonds? Can you hear me, Sherman? Okay, so we still are having some issues with his audio. We're still having some issues there with his audio. And so this is one of those stories that people are talking about. Because it deals with workplace environment. It deals with how people are dealing with various issues within the workplace. We have a number of individuals who work in academia who have been sharing their stories about the things that they actually have been enduring, what they have been going through, all of those different things. And it has been, and again, so you also had an effort to terminate her. So again, it's just so many different things that have been taking place. So we're going to do this here. We're going to go to a break. Let's get Sherman's audio straight, folks, so we can hear from him. We'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Grow your business or career with Grow with Google's wide range of online courses, digital training, and tools. Gain in-demand job skills with flexible online training programs designed to put you on the fast track to jobs in high-growth fields. No experience is necessary. Learn at your own pace. Complete the online certificate program on your own terms. Stand out to employers, get on a path to in-demand jobs, and connect with top employers who are currently hiring. Take one professional career certificate program or all 6. Earn a Google Career Certificate to prepare for a job in a high-growth field like data analytics, project management, UX design, cybersecurity, and more. All professional career certificate programs must be completed by December 31st, 2024. Scan the QR code to complete the application. There are 1,000 scholarships available. Grow with Google and J. Hood and Associates. Be job ready and qualify for in-demand jobs.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we're talking about the difficulty of being able to acquire wealth for Black Americans. My guest, Emily Flitter, is the author of The White Wall: How Big Finance is Bankrupting Black Americans.
The bad stuff that you feel when you're dealing with the financial services industry is not your fault. It's not your fault, and you don't deserve to be treated like this.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
On the next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, just who do you think you are? And maybe more importantly, who is it that you think you're trying to please? The answer to that second question is really wrapped up in the first. Think about that. Being the true, authentic you, no matter the circumstance.
But we learn the art of forgiveness, not only of forgiving one another, but forgiving ourselves. And we also learn how to love ourselves so that we can love each other.
That's next on A Balanced Life, here on Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Franklin. It is always a pleasure to be in the house. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
All right, folks, we have the audio issues with Dr. Sherman Bond sorted out. Before I go to him, this is the letter here that Dr. Mosley, that was sent by Dr. Bailey to President Mosley on the day she committed suicide. You see her saying, "Thank you for allowing me to return to Lincoln University on May 1st, 2023 and serve as the Vice President and Dean of Students in the Division of Student Affairs." She goes on to talk about being appreciative of working there. She says, yes, there are some interpersonal personality conflicts with team members. They're dedicated and work hard. I appreciated the meeting, and at the end, before the November evaluation meeting, I asked if you wanted me at LU. Thank you for the indirect response. It spoke volumes. Lincoln is where it started for me and where it ended. I'm expressing my sincere thoughts in this letter. She addresses and speaks about a number of her sorority sisters. She was an AKA in here as well. She goes on and talks about she receiving a 36 out of a 100 score on her evaluation on November 15th. She says that meant I didn't have a pulse and was just a body present. The total score was 100. If I am wrong, please accept my apology. The evaluation was not good. Why did you allow me to work if I was that much of a bad employee with poor leadership? While everyone was asleep, I was working. While on vacation, I was working. You even asked that I do a scheduled send on emails so folks aren't getting messages at all times of the night. I made it clear to staff that I work 24/7, but I don't have that expectation for them to be up working. The staff can never tell you of a time I didn't respond when I was working or away from the office. Never. Who got calls at 2 a.m., answered them, and followed up appropriately. If it was so bad, you should have provided me with an improvement action plan to work with me on my poor performance. You had no intention of retaining me as the VPSA. It went downhill after the FLMA and ADA documents were submitted due to my severe depression and anxiety. She said, I requested to be removed under your leadership and from PAC, and this was causing significant attacks. This is all documented and sent. She says, you intentionally harassed and bullied me and got satisfaction from sitting back to determine how you would ensure I failed as an employee and proud alumna. How can you have an employee who ranks 36 out of 100 without a plan to help them improve? Well, you allowed me to do your dirty work and clean house in student affairs. Everyone you had significant concerns about within student affairs and discussed when I started is no longer with the university. She then goes on by saying, you're avoiding this concern and thriving off the chaos. As an incoming president, you were required to receive leadership coaching, which you complained about meeting with Joe. Coaching is needed. Then she went on and talked about a number of other meetings. She talked about this PAC meeting. She said, you never had a discussion with me about some of the concerns. I even asked for the specifics during the meeting, which you struggled to provide and promised me to give specifics. When you offered needed clarity on how it related to the evaluation, I questioned. She said, what you offered needed clarity on how it related to the evaluation. I questioned, and you made it clear you weren't changing anything. It seemed you just pulled things out of the air. She talked about him failing to respond to issues as well. And she goes on and on and on, details an email that she received as well, talking about the mental health issues. She says, you were made aware of my mental health by email before I sent the email to the BOC, the Board of Curators. You scheduled a meeting on 10/26. Your demeanor was that of rushing. You stood the entire meeting, and you appeared heartless. She then says, be kind and watch how you talk to people. People have feelings and your words hurt. I observe you don't like it. I observe you don't like it when people do this to you. I mentioned this to you, and you said, Bonnie, you do the same thing. I acknowledge I was direct and tried to make changes in my delivery. Take ownership and don't get defensive when people try to provide feedback. She says Student Affairs Administration is a revolving door. She went on and talked about, please reconsider your management style. You're the first president I've ever seen, and I've worked and graduated from some influential R1 institutions, to have his hands in everything. I mean everything. Now, for areas you don't know much about, it is known you stay out of the way. It boils down to your lack of trust, insecurities, and control. How can you be concerned with trusting others when you can't be trusted? She talked about working with other presidents and how they operated. She said, we spend so much on attorney fees. Kathy needed to provide better legal guidance regarding me in 2 situations. She accused him of being micromanager. You see all of this. She said, stop bullying and beating PAC up in front of others. What I've learned, you put April and Jeff in uncomfortable positions in front of others. And she goes on detailing, you see folks here, boldface, underline, highlighting all of these different things. She talked about evaluations. Again, his failure to operate as a leader. This, folks, this is literally what she sent the day she took her life. All of this is what was actually sent to the president. I'm going to get down to the bottom of this issue. And then she goes, my soul must be clear. Shonda is genuinely dedicated and hard worker for the division. I like her as a person and professional. Shonda was concerned about her job being in jeopardy. I would never recommend her termination. My soul didn't sit well with the grievances she completed on student affairs staff and the delayed time of reporting both instances On the same day, HR asked if I witnessed Marnita hitting Shonda at your holiday party. I explained I didn't. I don't believe in my spirit that Marnita hit Shonda. I can't see Shonda not confronting the situation on the spot. Folks, she's going on, detailing this, telling him get to know alumni and alumni. She says many can see through you and your motivation. She said I was warned during my interview by Jeremy to make sure I stressed I didn't want your job because some alumni and alumni discussed me being president in the alumni group. I mean, my God, she just laid it out. Stop and listen to others. Stop defending. Humble yourself. Arrogance is not in your best interest. Have regularly scheduled meetings. Then she talked about you are constantly referencing Chancellor Martin. LU is not North Carolina A&T State University, not even close. Chancellor Martin is an invested alumnus from A&T with vision, professionalism, and strategy, a relationship builder, respected throughout the country, and full of Aggie pride. He has the vision and the staff to retain and graduate students successfully. Lastly, he has the knowledge base, experience, confidence, and strong support from the alumni and alumnae to make A&T an illustrious university. She goes, lastly, mental health is real. I told the investigator I believed the information shared with me until my dying day. I sincerely shared with you about my illness. I was saddened to learn you shared and joked about my condition. While the investigation is closed, this situation has not been completed. My ADA request and mental health status were the real issues. You suppressed the disability with my inability to supervise and provide leadership. I learned a valuable lesson while in the position. Receipts are necessary. I didn't even include all the nuggets. However, all material is on an external hard drive and in my phone. I won't be around. However, I have faith that this once great institution can be great again, a place that my family and I once loved. Mom said the most challenging thing she ever had to do was leave me crying and looking out the fourth window in Dawson Hall. She never turned around to look at me. Mom made sure a brick was purchased in my name after I graduated. Mom wore her LU shirt to church proudly on college day in my honor. She's a proud alumna from SIUC and DePaul, but LU was forever in her heart. As a freshman, she even allowed me to put a LU bumper sticker on the back of her new car. After returning to work at the university, I immediately paid for another brick in my name and alumni dues. Returning to LU turned out to leave me severely bruised and broken. She says in here, she said, I cried my last tear this morning. I've had dark days, but I've never been this dark in my 25 years in the field. Student affairs was my love, and my love killed me. I hope this message touches someone. If your soul is empty, troubled, in despair, and you see red flags, leave. Don't try to stick around. My soul can now rest. I feel my earthly dash. March 1974, January 2024. A seat has been prepared for me. Karma is a beast and never expires. Karma will catch up to you and a few others. It may not happen tomorrow, however, in time. Karma and ill intentions are like a mirror. It will reflect the pains and bruises you caused on others. Dr. Mosley, may God have mercy on your callous and evil soul. You should never have bad intentions against any child of God. I wish my beloved LU all the best. Blue Tiger Pride, Bonnie. Dr. Bonds, it is painful just reading that letter.
Yes, it is, Roland. It's very, very difficult to hear it read to me again. It was difficult for me to read it in real time. And as I read it, when I received it, I ended up receiving a text that she had committed suicide. I offer my condolences to the family and to her husband. I offer my support to my LU family. I offer my love and support to all the AKs out there that are crying and weeping and wailing. I'm set back. I'm dismayed. I'm disappointed. And I find myself in a state of hopelessness. However, but I believe Bonnie, Dr. Bailey made it clear. There's there's a day that's coming, and that day should be coming soon, that we'll be able to move forward, and we'll be able to find closure, and we'll be able to carry on her legacy with the university, and we'll be able to lift up that honorable institution known as Lincoln University.
Were you and others made aware of the issues that she was having with the president? Was this common knowledge?
No, it's not common knowledge about the depth of her issues. I think we struggle with the president's ability to be an effective leader. We identified early on that he was a novice, parochial, pedestrian candidate that was given an opportunity to step into a seat. The board of curators implied and suggested that they would give him the tools that he would need. And unfortunately, as we wrote a year ago in our letter to give the board of curators our objective views of their decision, they used their autocratic position to claim that it was their entitlement to make the decision. And now we're here with this sad occasion. I call for redirection, I call for a resolution, and I call for the removal of Dr. Mosley from the office of president of Lincoln University. As long as he's there, he brings a stain upon the university's mission, upon the institutional care of that mission and the responsibility. Unfortunately, Dr. Bailey was not the first scholar in which he's removed. In his tenure so far, he's removed 3 doctoral professors that came to Lincoln, and that's too many within a short time. The environment is purpose is for nurturing. And not only did Dr. Bailey talk about his insecurity as it relates to the presidency, Dr. Self also shared that was the sentiment of his inability and his insecurities.
Sherman, this right here is the board of curators. And have you heard from any of the members of the board of curators with regards to this issue?
No. They have not chosen to come out and present in any form. I think they will cower toward the position that this is a personnel matter, and they have no comment. This is a decision in which the board made and has given us. They've given us a weak leader. They've given us an unskilled president who does not have the capacity to build. Dr. Bailey was there no longer than 9 months, and not to have a formative assessment that gives her, as you said, a corrective action. You take her and you dispose of her as if she's just a dusty towel. And I find that to be very, very unsettling. I think the institution for HBCUs is where we build a platform to build out our scholars. And you have 3 PhDs or EDDs to come under your leadership not to be successful. That's a reflection on you. That's not a reflection on them. You know, one time you might be able to say yes, but Dr. Self, Dr. Brown, and now you have Dr. Bailey. That is just poor leadership quality. You hired her, you brought her there, and you disposed of her recklessly, in my opinion.
When you said calling for him to be removed, is that you individually, or has the Alumni Association taken a vote, and is that the stance of the entire Alumni Association?
With the Alumni Association, I have not met with the board and its entirely, but the sentiment of the members have, they called. I have quite a few presidents who are in the same boat, but I would imagine that there may be some who would say we are rushing to judgment and that we should allow. If we do not take the position that we have, we wouldn't be where we are. If we would not be outspoken and say enough is enough, we wouldn't be there. I think they would think it is just business as usual, and we can dispose of an African woman just any kind of way. Those days are past. We don't do that no more. You know, it happened on his watch. It's time for him to move. And as simple as that. And quite frankly, it may be time for the board to move because it's their decision. It's a reflection on them.
Dr. Sherman Barnes, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thank you. Michael Imhotep is the host of the African History Network show out of Detroit. John Quill Neal is a trial lawyer with the John Quill Neal firm out of Atlanta. John Quill, I want to start with you. This is, obviously, so many people are commenting about this on social media. A lot of female educators are discussing this as well. Reading that letter, she lays out in detail the issues that she had with this president.
Yes, there are a lot of issues as it relates to this specific tragedy. This is just so sad. I don't believe that we got a clear answer as to what the knowledge of the university was as it relates to what was happening. But it would be plausible for us to presume that there were some others that were CC'd on some of this correspondence or other people that were involved. And although public universities can be challenging to sue because they have immunity, they are potentially open to a lawsuit, right? Because essentially you have here a faculty member that made it very clear that she had anxiety and depression. She tried to take leave under FMLA and the American Disabilities Act. That was denied. It appears to be numerous discussions and some of the factors that are considered when suing, because you can potentially sue in some jurisdictions for wrongful death for suicide. And what some of the factors that they look at or that would be relevant would be whether or not it would be his conduct, the negligent, reckless, or intentional behavior was a significant factor in her suicide, whether it could reasonably be foreseeable that his actions would cause her suicide, and whether or not that he knew that she had suicidal tendencies. And in that specific letter that she drafted, or email correspondence that she drafted, she talked about her soul being empty, and she made other references that that gives quite concern for her mental health. And so, I think this is a tragic situation, but the institution is open to potential litigation.
This here was a letter that they sent to her regarding the allegation of the president making fun of her condition to others. They sent this on December 8th, and they said that a thorough investigation took place and that they found that Dr. Mosley engaged, that they did not find that Dr. Mosley engaged in such actions, and instead found that you chose to believe what you had been told third hand by an unnamed employee. It was also determined you did not take the time to discuss your concerns with Dr. Mosley because you said you did not yet have the opportunity, but instead you sent them in an email to Dr. Mosley and the Board of Curators to, in your words, bring awareness to all parties. It says, in addition, the investigator determined that you have taken no responsibility for the poor work you have done since your arrival at the university, and you have set yourself against Dr. Mosley, believing he is the problem and that it is his responsibility to provide you with actionable items to make you feel better in your position as Vice President of Student Affairs, Dean of Students. If you have any questions, please let me know. This was from April Robinson, the Executive Director and Chief HR Officer. It is, as we said, Michael, the President has stepped down while they are investigating into this matter, placed on administrative leave. He's not resigned.
Right. Yeah, well, this whole incident is a real tragedy, regardless of what we find out in the investigation, once the investigation is completed. This is a tragedy, and this also calls for a need when it comes to increase in funding for mental health. but also better understanding mental health, depression, things of this nature, and the pressures that people experience in the workplace, especially African Americans in the workplace. I don't have all the details on this, but I can't help but also see some parallels between this and Dr. Claudine Gay being pushed out as president of Harvard University. And even though there are different circumstances, when Dr. Bailey talks about bullying, okay, if what she is alleging here is correct, or even if 1/10 of what she is alleging here is correct with bullying, we also saw that coming from the conservative right, bullying Dr. Claudine Gay.
Well, in the case here, that's outside folks who were targeting Gay. Here, this is her saying it's the president.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why I said there's some parallels. It's not the exact same thing, but
again, the different. First of all, I don't think there's actually a parallel. The folks on the right were targeting Gay because of her comments was happening on campus. This is her talking about job performance, and so it's a lot different in that she was working under this person, whereas Gay was not working for her critics.
I totally understand that, Roland, but at the same time, Dr. Gay's qualifications were challenged.
I understand that. I understand that.
Right. Yeah. So I understand their differences.
So let me also say this. So this was the press release that was sent out when Dr. Bailey was hired. This was April 17, 2023. Much fanfare, and this is the comment from the president in this press release. We're excited for Dr. Candia-Bailey to join our team. She brings a wealth of experience to move student affairs and our entire university forward. That division is vital to our students' collegiate experience beyond the classroom, and I feel certain she's the right leader to guide those efforts. Folks, that was in April. She started in May, and she took her life January 8th, so she wasn't even there an entire year. We'll keep you all abreast of what happens next in this particular sad story. Coming up next, we'll talk about calls against President Biden from Democrats and Republicans because of military action taken in an African nation. We'll talk about that with national security expert coming up next on the show from Nolans. We'll talk about that. All right. Back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Next, on the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, author Dr. Aderrien Murry, on her astounding and enlightening new book, White Philanthropy, a history we're betting you've never heard before. Don't miss an eye-opening episode of the Black Table, only on Black Star Network.
What's good, y'all? This is Doug E. Fresh, and you're watching my brother Roland Martin Unfiltered as we go a little something like this. Hit it. It's real.
Thursday night, U.S. and British militaries bombed sites used by the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen. The massive retaliatory strike used warship and submarine-launched Tomahawk missiles and fighter jets. The U.S. Air Force's Mideast Command reported more than 60 targets at 16 sites in Yemen, including of course, their command structure there as well. Now, the problem with this, for some folks, is that you got some members of Congress who are saying, wait a minute, the Biden administration did not have the authority to launch these strikes against the Houthis in Yemen. Dr. Nola Haynes joins us right now. So, Nola, glad to have you back on the show. Glad to see you. So, first and foremost, you have the military strike itself.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, now you have members of Congress who are saying, wait a minute, we didn't give you this authority. White House is saying we didn't declare war against anybody. And so explain what happened here.
Well, it's really good to be with you in 2024. Happy New Year, Roland, to you and everybody at RMU. So I completely understand why this is a confusing situation, because congressional members that are saying that the president is held to a certain standard under Article 2, they're not wrong, because Article 2 is about first getting congressional authorities for the president to go ahead and officially wage war. But to your point, this is a unique situation in that this has been going on since November 19th to be exact. And there was a coalition that was formed of about 20 nations to make sure that global commerce can continue during the Israel-Gaza war. So that's one part of this. And I know that it's all getting lumped in together. And so there were a series of warnings given to the Houthis, Ansar Allah, however you want to refer to them, to say, hey, this cannot continue. You cannot continue to not only attack Israeli ships, but to also attack partner and coalition ships. So that's how we got to this situation today. There was a really horrible and awful attack against Belgium ships, and there was a coordinated attack against, very specifically, their military capabilities as a response to the attacks that they were already spearheading in the Red Sea. So this is a response to attacks that they have warned Houthis multiple times, including on January 10th with the UN resolution, saying these attacks need to stop now, and they did not. And so the president took action. Now, regional security is very different from what we see, what the optics are, what international security shows us on social media. Within the region, people are happy that the U.S. and the U.K. actually took this step, because ships were literally being attacked. And we're talking about people, I don't think they really realize how much trade is still done on ships and boats. And so that was greatly impacted in the Red Sea. So this is a response to what the Houthis did. This isn't the U.S. or the U.K. coalition partners waging war against Houthis. Two different situations.
So there were protests also in the Capitol. This is a video circulating on social media with regards to these protests. Who are the folks in Yemen standing with? Are they standing with these rebels, or are they standing with their country's leaders? And is their country leaders backing the rebels?
They're definitely in cahoots with Hamas. And, you know, there's some folks that don't want to go as far as to say that they are Iran's proxy, because some people believe on one side of the argument that the Houthis definitely have their own identity. They have their own sets of goals. So they're not just acting in the interest of Iran. There are others who say that they are acting in the interest of Iran. But specifically right now, what they're doing in the Red Sea, they are hampering commerce, they are hampering trade, they are hampering, humanitarian aid, and not just in this context. That's kind of historically what has been done in the Red Sea in a very in an egregious way. So this is why the response, which was proportional to what the Houthis did in the Red Sea, and why civilians were not targeted. These were all military capabilities that were targeted strategically to make sure that human casualties were at a minimum. And then one last thing I do want to say about the debate between what Article 2 says and versus what Article 51 in the UN Charter says about states having the right to respond and defend against attacks. And I know that Article 51 is something that the folks that are in favor of this attack, that they're leaning on in terms of why it wasn't necessary to get congressional approval for a defense response.
All right.
This wasn't offensive.
Got it. All right, Dr. Nola Haynes. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, going to break. We come back. We'll talk about the Fed seeking the death penalty for the white supremacists who killed 10 black people in Buffalo. Folks, be sure to support us in what we do. Our aim is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day for the work that we do here, not only for this show, 2 hours a day, but for all of our shows. We do more original content every day on the Black Star Network than any black-owned media outlet. So we would love for you to support us in what we do. To join our Bring the Funk fan club, send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version on Audible. Folks, I'll be right back.
A new year for a new you. Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com is an amazing organic line for curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. Look at this video and you be the judge. People line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat and try it, they don't believe it's their hair. Buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use code ROLAND, that's ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. Seasoned saints are loving the product. It's all at curlprep.com. Use code ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. You won't believe it's your hair.
Give me that bass, give me that beat.
Creator and executive producer of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The Justice Department will seek the death penalty for the white supremacist who killed 10 people, 10 black folks, and injured 3 others in a racially motivated shooting at a top supermarket in Buffalo, New York. That took place, of course, in May of 2022. Peyton Gendon is already serving life without parole on state. After being convicted on the state side, he pled guilty in February 2023 to 15 charges, including domestic terrorism and motivated by hate, murder, and attempted murder. Now, federal prosecutors say they believe a death sentence is warranted in their filing because Gendon intentionally killed all of the African Americans involved. The DOJ also cited Gendon's intentional infliction of bodily injury, intentional participation in an act resulting in death. First of all, the federal grand jury returned a 27-count indictment against him in July 2022, charging him with 14 violations of the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act. John Quell, I'll start with you. From a legal standpoint, I'm quite sure if his lawyers are saying, man, let's somehow get this out of the way. Let's plead and not be in a situation where he faces the death penalty.
Sure. I mean, of course, you know, what they may do in federal court, what they did in state court, which was enter a guilty plea. But what was interesting and surprising to me is that during the course of his plea at the state level, he admitted on the record that he killed the victims in the store because of their race and because of them being black. And I found that to be interesting that they would even allow him to make that kind of admission to a hate crime, specifically because they're Black, on the record. So now we're up here in federal court, right? They may they pled down there. It's a good chance they're going to plead in federal court, and then he'll move to the sentencing phase. And of course, essentially the sentencing phase in a capital murder case is a trial. The court will hear from witnesses. You'll have a trier of fact that will look at several factors to determine whether or not that's the appropriate punishment. And certainly, if he does plead guilty, that can be considered as a mitigating factor, right? Because he is accepting some form of guilt. However, the heinous nature of the crime, the loss of 10 lives, 3 additional victims that were injured. As a result, we have the lost lives of it's just a senseless, horrifying act that he committed. But essentially, it will ultimately be up to the juror of fact, and they'll look at several factors, and including him admitting on the record that he killed the 10 victims because they were Black.
Michael.
You know, Roland, once again, this was a heinous act. I know we discussed it here on the show a number of times, but yes, I think he deserves the death penalty. Now, I'm not an advocate for the death penalty because it's used disproportionately against African Americans. 1, 2, we know sometimes you find out people were on death row and they're innocent and they're released from prison, or wrongly convicted, things of this nature. But I do make exceptions for the death penalty. But in this case here, I think it's important for people to understand that Peyton Gendron pushed the far-right conspiracy known as the Great Replacement Theory, okay, which was also pushed by Tucker Carlson on Fox News and other conservatives, other white supremacist, things of this nature. And, you know, I think hopefully this will send a clear message that this is not going to be tolerated. And I think it's also important for people to research the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act that we've talked about here on this show before. And James Byrd was the African-American man killed in Jasper, Texas, because I do hear African Americans say, well, Asians got a hate crimes bill, right? They don't talk about the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Act. No. They say, no. They say Asians got a hate crimes bill. We ain't never had one. I know. That's a lie. That's what I'm saying. They don't. I know it's a lie. That's what I'm saying. They don't talk about this bill here. 1, 2, the first. No. Or if they do, they'll say, no. But that was the white gay guy, and his name on the bill too. Where's one that's just us? Well, there were 2. First of all, the one dealing with church burnings. That was us. I'm dealing with the first one, 1968. Right, I'm saying so. Fair Housing Act. But all these folks, it's all a bunch of BS. I understand, but proper documentation ends all conversation. 1968, the first hate crimes act in the history of this country, signed into law by President Lyndon Baines Johnson, part of the Fair Housing Act, which was the result of the modern-day civil rights movement, largely done for African Americans. Okay, so people have to do this research and stop listening to Black social media disinformation agents who are putting out nonsense. Well, they real good at that. Folks, check this out. So white nationalist Charlie Kirk, the Turning Point USA, they love Donald Trump. They also had a whole bunch of racists work for them. These are the fools who initially had Candace Owens, that clueless fool working for them as well. So check this out. This fool, Charlie Kirk, now says he's going to come out and every week discredit Dr. King because he believes that the Civil Rights Act should never have been passed, and that, as they say, it ushered in a permanent DEI-type bureaucracy. So check this out. Kirk, he says in his quote, we're going to be hitting him every week. Yeah, on the day of the Iowa caucus, it's MLK Day. We're going to do the things you're not supposed to do. We're going to tell the truth about MLK Jr. You better tune in. Blake has already been preparing. It's going to be great. Oh, who's Blake? Well, this person here says, Blake is an apparent reference to Blake Neff, a producer of the Charlie Kirk Show. In 2020, Neff resigned from his job at Fox News as Tucker Carlson's top writer after CNN revealed he had been making racist posts under a pseudonym. No shock, Michael, that Charlie Kirk would have a racist working on his show. No shock at all, because birds of a feather flock together. And when this idiot, Charlie Kirk, puts out his misinformation about Dr. King, African Americans or responsible African American media, like right here on Black Star Media Network and on the African History Network show, we need to tear his ass up and hit him with the facts and evidence, okay? Because these people going into 2024 now, they're going to continue to lie and spread misinformation, and we have to shut them down at every step of the way.
And here's the deal, and John Quell, I mean, the reason I wrote this book, the reason I laid out In White Fear, and I call all this, I said all these things were going to happen. Their goal is to attack any and everything that has been beneficial to black folks and others. That is their aim.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it brings up just an interesting topic about when affirmative action, how that was just, it's over, right? That set us back 124 years. I mean, there have been so many attacks, and there just has not been any outrage behind it. There hasn't been, you just don't hear anything about it. It's just kind of like everybody just pick up and just said, all right, affirmative action is over. And it really has a lot to do, and we should be concerned as a community about the future of the young people behind us, right? I mean, we have got to fight back to all of these attacks, because they're chipping away, and it's chipping away at the progress that we have been able to make through the years. And so as these things are happening, and as these attacks on our laws, on our privileges, on our rights that have affected our community, we can't stand by. I mean, we have to take action, whether it's you being present on shows, protesting, and all of that. I mean, when, for example, the George Floyd movement, when that occurred, just the power, the worldwide power, it took that level of a tragedy for our community, and not in addition to our community, an outcry across the world for people to come out and stand together to make a difference. And we have got to use some of those same tools, not the burning of buildings and trashing windows and all of that, but we have got to employ, we're coming up on the heels of Martin Luther King Day on Monday. We have got to, as a community, work together to fight back against all of these attacks on our community. Well,
bottom line is, let's be clear, a lot of that you had folks who were insurgents who were in that. In fact, in Minneapolis, it was a white supremacist who was outed as starting fires there. So they love to try to blame Black Lives Matter for that, but that's what we also had happen in a lot of this. But you're absolutely right. It is a question of mobilizing, organizing to fight back. That's why we keep saying on the show, there is a very clear and well-funded attack against not just affirmative action, not just DEI, but any and everything that has been able to assist African Americans. And so we're seeing it happen right before us. All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to talk about the case out of Mississippi. 911 calls will be released in the case of the shooting with an 11-year-old black boy shot by the Indianola, Mississippi cop. The tapes are a little different than what Sergeant Greg Capers said what happened. We'll explain. Plus, I'll have for you my book club suggestion on this MLK Day weekend, and it's not about him. That and a lot more in the second hour of Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash. backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
I'm Dee Barnes, and next on The Frequency, we're talking about the rise in great Black literature and the authors who are writing it. Joining me will be professor and author Donna Hill, discuss her writing journey and becoming a best-selling author.
I always was writing, but I never saw anybody that looked like me in the books that I was reading.
Plus, her work with the Center for Black Literature and next year's National Black Writers Conference. That's right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Farquhar, executive producer of Proud Family. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, let's talk about this story out of Mississippi where attorneys for Aderrien Murry, the 11-year-old boy, Mississippi boy, who Indianola Police Sergeant Greg Capers shot on a domestic violence call. They released a 911 dispatch audio tape suggesting that mistakes were made before the near-fatal encounter. These 911 recordings raised questions about whether Capers knew there was a child in the home when he and another officer responded to the domestic disturbance calls placed by Aderrien's grandmother, who was not there, and then by Aderrien. So what we did was piece together the calls in the body cam video in the sequence that everything happened. Watch.
Indianola PD. Yes, East, send a call to 1111 BB King Road.
1111 BB King?
Yes.
What's going on at that location?
The boyfriend jumping on her mama.
Okay, are you at that location?
No, that's my grandson. You can call me. He's just sneaking call me.
Okay, who can the officer make contact at that location?
Michaela Murray.
Michaela.
You need that one, right? I tell him that he called me.
What's going on? Okay, all right. I got officers out to their location.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Indianola PD? Yeah, I'm listening.
I need some cops. Sit on that BB King Road.
629? You said 629 BB King? 1111 BB King? Michaela Murray?
Yes.
Okay, I got officers en route to you.
Help me, man.
I got officers en route. Someone already called for you. They're en route right now. Okay.
Hello.
They're outside. Can you?
He wanted to open the door.
He wanted to open the door?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Stay on the phone. Okay. Are you giving them permission to kick the door in? Is there any weapons involved?
No.
Is there any weapons involved?
What did you say?
Do he have any weapons?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. They asking, do they have your permission to kick the door in?
Yes.
Okay.
Ain't that easy. Who is he? Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. Where is he at? Where is he at? You better come on out. Come out, ma'am. Does he have any weapons?
Step out.
Come on out.
Go that way. Step out. Go.
Come out, sir. Don't make us come in.
Look, go. You need to move. Get from behind me. Go on out there.
Where is he at?
I just was trying to tell her she told me to move.
Police, you got any weapons? You better put them down. Oh my God! Oh my God! Missed that! Missed that! Missed that! Missed that! Missed that! We need him now.
Carlos Moore is the family attorney for the Murry family. He joins us from Jackson, Mississippi. Carlos, I understand that Aderrien's mother has filed a criminal affidavit against Sergeant Greg Capers.
Yes, she has been relentless in pursuing justice for her son. The grand jury failed to indict him for aggravated assault, so now she has taken matters into her own hands and filed a criminal affidavit for the misdemeanor simple assault, which will not require a grand jury to indict him. It will simply be a bench trial before a judge in Indianola, Mississippi.
So what do the audio recordings from your perspective show that where it differs from the body cam footage?
Officer Capers has always maintained he did not know that there were children in the home. Well, we know that the audio recordings now make it apparently clear that he should have known, because that was clearly indicated to the dispatcher, Jada Rush. She knew when the grandmother said her grandson was the one that had called and informed her, and he was there and had snuck and called her. So grandson tells you that should tell her as a child. And then when he's speaking as a child, she talked to Aderrien himself. He sounds like a child, a little boy. So I don't know how she would have been confused. When the dispatcher was interviewed by MBI, she told the investigators for MBI that she had in fact told the officers that there were children present. She later on recanted in a written statement, but her recorded statement to the MBI officer initially was that she did tell Capers and the other officer that children were present. And so not only that, but the audio tapes make it clear that Aderrien told him no weapons were involved, and the body camera footage shows that Nikayla says no when asked was a weapon involved. So why was Capers so trigger happy? I would never know.
Questions from our panel. Michael, you first.
Attorney Carlos Moore, thanks for coming back on and sharing this update with us. The video camera footage is very hard to watch. Based upon the new information that we know now, can you explain to us what you think, in your estimation, Sergeant Capers should have done entering into that home? Because once again, you know, I'm still trying to figure out how all this happened like this.
What he should have done, he should have, we believe that even when Nikayla Murry came out, I mean, he scared her almost to death, had the gun pointed in her face. There is a report to the dispatch that there is no weapon involved, so why is he bringing a weapon to a fist fight? And so they would have told them had a weapon been involved. So he didn't need the gun from the very beginning. So he should have been more cautious, maybe had a taser in his hand or something, but not that deadly weapon of a gun. He also should have said, anyone in the house, come out slowly with your hands up, anyone in the house. He just called out for the man. He just did a lot of things that were not according to policy. And he should have. He was there before, so he knew that there had been children previously at that address. So he should have known to expect a child or children in that house.
Right. And if I get a chance, I have a second question.
Well, ask it.
Okay. In the beginning of the video, the sergeant knocks on the door twice, 2 sessions knocking on the door, but does not identify himself as a police officer. Does this cause a problem leading up to Aderrien being shot? Is that a problem at all?
By him not identifying himself as a police officer?
Oh, on the outside when he's knocking on the door. Well, at the beginning of the video, I saw some of the video from one of the local news outlets. Beginning of the video, he knocks on the door. The door's closed. He knocks on the door, does not identify himself as a police officer. He knocks on the door, 2 sessions knocking on the door. Now, once he opens the door, he identifies himself as a police officer. I'm just asking, because I don't understand why he would not identify himself as a police officer on the outside, the door's closed, and he's knocking.
Yeah, he was just poorly trained all the way around, but I do believe that Aderrien would have still been shot. Anytime you were shooting first and looking second, anyone that came across that corner was going to be shot. This man was very scared. He was trigger happy, and anything that moved evidently was going to get shot before he even looked.
Okay, thank you.
Jonquel?
Yes, Judge Moore, thank you so much for being here, and kudos to you for representing this family through something that's so tragic, and for her to, despite a grand jury indictment not coming down, pursuing the misdemeanor route. I'm curious, as it relates to now that he has been reinstated back to the police force, if in fact the misdemeanor charges did not move forward, how will that play out or affect the family's ability to receive justice or compensation in this case?
Well, they are two different ballparks. We are pursuing vigorously the civil lawsuit in federal court, and later on this year we will file the state law claims in state court. So we're going to have 2 civil suits going along simultaneously. And in the criminal arena, whether or not she gets a conviction of this misdemeanor or not, that's not going to have any effect on her civil case. So I expect her to receive justice in the form of monetary dollars, but true justice for her as a mother of a child that was shot innocently, having his hands up as the police instructed, with nothing in his hands that could have been perceived as a weapon. She wants a criminal conviction, and we're going to stand by her every step of the way as she pursues justice on whatever level she wants to pursue it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Carlos, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming back on.
All right. Thanks, Roland.
All right, then. All right, folks, going to a break. We come back more on Roland Martin Unfiltered, including President Joe Biden, a new student loan forgiveness plans. I thought all these people kept saying that was a broken campaign promise. All right, more facts for y'all when you come back. Don't forget to support us in what we do. Join our Bring the Fuck fan club. Folks, our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50, on average $50 each for the year. That'll raise us $1 million to do what we do. Please send your check and money orders, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, or Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to download the Black Star Network app. We're trying to get to 100,000 downloads, folks. Your iPhone, Apple phone, your iPhone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, you can support us by checking out our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel. We're available on Amazon News by simply go to Amazon Fire. You can also tell Alexa to play news from the Black Star Network. You can also check us out on Plex TV, Amazon Freevee, and Amazon Prime Video. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Also get the Audible version. I'm reading it on Audible. We'll be right back. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, just who do you think you are? And maybe more importantly, who is it that you think you're trying to please? The answer to that second question is really wrapped up in the first. Think about that. Being the true, authentic you, no matter the circumstance.
But we learn the art of forgiveness, not only of forgiving one another, but forgiving ourselves. And we also learn how to love ourselves so that we can love each other.
That's next on A Balanced Life, here on Black Star Network.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, so I always love people when they get these interviews and these networks go talking to them and they go find 2 or 3 black people and ask them some questions. And if they know what the hell they're talking about, then they run it acting as if that represents all black people. So the other day I was watching this, I think it was NBC or CBS, one of them, and they went to South Carolina. And they were like, South Carolina voters are not happy with Joe Biden. So I interviewed this one sister. She says, you know, Biden promised us student loan debt relief and nothing has happened. $132 billion in student loan debt relief has happened for 3.9 million Americans. A lot black. Well, check this out. Millions more are going to have their student loans dealt with in February as part of the Biden administration's new student loan debt relief plan. Uh-oh. That's a fact, y'all. Right. So the repayment plan is this here. It's taking effect nearly 6 months ahead of schedule. The ban, this deal of forgiveness, was initially set to begin in July under the new SAVE repayment plan, but it's starting early to provide faster relief to borrowers. Borrowers will be eligible for cancellation if they are enrolled in the new SAVE plan. Now, if they originally borrowed $12,000 or less to attend college and have made at least 10 years of payments, Biden announced the new repayment plan is going to not pay anything else. Yeah. Now remember, the Supreme Court struck down his plan to cancel up to $20,000 in loans. Unlike his proposal for mass cancellation, the repayment plan is a twist on existing income-based plans created by Congress more than a decade ago. Republicans tried to block the new repayment plan through legislation and a resolution, but last year they were unsuccessful. So what's interesting here to me, Michael, when we talk about this new debt relief plan, is, again, for the people who keep saying, man, Biden-Harris ain't done nothing. I don't know what they doing. Let me remind people, Republicans right now don't want any of this to happen.
Right.
They don't want, again, any of this to happen. They have made it perfectly clear, oh my goodness, no debt relief. Again, this is real basic, folks. If you took out less than $12,000, and this is very basic, it's right here, again, less than 12 grand in loans and have been you've been in repayment for 10 years, your student debt will be canceled, meaning that's it. If y'all got any questions, go to studentaid.gov /save. I'm trying to understand, how can you keep saying, well, he didn't do nothing about student loans? I don't get it.
Because they don't read. That's why. I don't know if they get most of their news about politics from Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club. I don't know where they get this misinformation from. But if you just go to whitehouse.gov, they have updated information there dealing with student loan forgiveness. So this is important. Now, this is not everything that we want, but you don't get it all at one time sometimes. And keep in mind.
No, you don't get all that you want most of the time, especially when Republicans now control the House. You got a narrow margin in the Senate. You just, the numbers aren't there.
Well, that's what I'm coming to.
And in fact, hold on, Michael, because I want you to, because here's the other thing, because you mentioned the Fair Housing Act, which is the 1968 Civil Rights Act.
Yes.
Let me remind black people and everybody else, Democrats had huge margins. Let me say it again. When you see those acts, oh my goodness, 300 plus people voted for those, because they had huge margins. It wasn't, the reason it was hard, because the Southern senators controlled key committees on the Senate side. That's why it was so hard. But people act like, oh, they've got 65 votes in the Senate. They've got 300 votes in the House. No, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, Democrats control the House of Representatives for about 40 years, up until the Bill Clinton administration. You had the backlash of the angry white male. But the point I was making is I find it interesting when people say, oh, nothing's been done on student loan forgiveness. One, you have almost $130 billion of forgiveness that you talked about. Two, you had Republicans filing lawsuits to block Biden's student loan forgiveness that would have moved 500,000 African-American families from a negative net worth to a positive net worth, his executive order, okay? And the reason why it was struck down is because of Trump's 6-3 conservative Supreme Court that goes back to the 2016 presidential election.
Hold up, and a number of Republican attorneys generals who filed the lawsuit.
Yep. So this deals with who you vote for at the state level, but also for president and the Senate, because very quickly, people forget this, 2014, Democrats lose control of the U.S. Senate. Mitch McConnell, Republicans take control of the Senate. They blocked 103 federal judge nominations for President Barack Obama and Merrick Garland for Supreme Court. Trump becomes president. He gets 3 Supreme Court nominations confirmed and 226 federal judges with the help of Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the Senate, because the Senate confirms Supreme Court justices and federal judges. We have to understand how all this fits together and focus on, this is about self-preservation and political self-defense. When you want bills on this end and executive orders on this end not to be overturned in court, it also deals with who you voted for in the previous election and who was confirmed to the Supreme Court by the U.S. Senate. So a lot of our people don't understand how all this connects, but this is why Civics 101 is so important, and Roland Martin Unfiltered is so important.
John Quell, the thing that's interesting, and again, I get it, and it's all about self-interest. I was on Twitter earlier, and this one woman was complaining because she was like, well, physician debt isn't a part, of the student loan debt relief, and that ain't fair. I get it. But again, they couldn't get it for everybody. But again, we're talking, it's $132 billion. This is going to add more to it. So to act like it's not happening, to me, is disingenuous. It's nonsensical.
Well, I think that Americans want to feel that whomever they've elected into power, that they are reaping the benefits instead of looking at it for the greater good perspective, right? Of course, this new initiative, just like the doctors, it's not going to benefit hardly any lawyers either. However, those that need it the most, it is going to benefit, right? And furthermore, they keep trying. I mean, because the Biden administration, after it was struck down by the Supreme Court, could have stopped at that juncture. However, they're still trying for student loan debt relief. And so it's moving positively in the right direction.
Well,
and I think
look, Robert Patillo was on our show Wednesday. He's an attorney, and he talked about how his student loan payments went from $1,600 a month down to $200. Oh, he happy as hell. That's a house note.
Yes.
You're right. That's some people's mortgages. And I wasn't speaking for the entire profession as a whole, but when you're talking about just generally speaking, just this specific initiative for those that took out $12,000, and maybe there are some attorneys out there, other professionals that may have only had to take out $12,000, and it certainly would affect them. But I think that for the greater good, that it's moving in a positive direction and it's benefiting our community. And so I'm just glad that they're continuing the efforts, and hopefully after this wave, there will be another one.
Look, I agree. It just kills me when I sit here and listen to folks who say these things, and also when you hear folks sitting here and say, "Oh well, black folks, haven't gotten this. And let me be real clear, in terms of what has happened. And here's the other thing right here. So Quentin Folks, who is the deputy campaign manager for the Biden-Harris reelection campaign, he was on MSNBC the other day. And again, I'm playing this for all those people out there. If you hear anybody out there saying how what's happening right now has not had an economic impact or positive economic impact on black people, listen to this.
Nobody, no administration has accomplished what the Biden-Harris administration has accomplished for the African-American community. We're talking about black wealth being up 60%. We're talking about the racial wealth gap being the lowest that it's ever been in recorded history. Record low unemployment for black Americans. Nobody, no administration has accomplished.
So the reason I wanted to play that, and again, I need people to understand, those of you who say, "Oh man, you just sitting here caping," facts are not facts. That's not caping. Facts are facts. Facts are facts. So let me remind people who are watching of facts. There was a home foreclosure. First of all, the closest that we've gotten to 50% black home ownership rate was under President Bill Clinton. Then it came down. Then we saw a boom in housing. There was a housing crisis in 2007 and 8. 53% of black wealth wiped out. Subprime mortgage loan crisis. Black unemployment rate was sky high 2009, 2010, 2011, due to the economic crisis in America, and then it began to come down. So now you're talking about 2012 to 2016, we were recovering from the housing crisis that took place in 2008. I need y'all to listen to me carefully. So we were in recovery mode. We were trying to regain, listen, from 2012 through December of 2019, we were trying to reclaim what we lost due to the home foreclosure crisis. And guess what? The numbers are there. Unemployment, it was a record low black unemployment rate in late 2019. What hit in February 2020? The pandemic.
Pandemic.
So pandemic hits in February 2020. 41% black jobs, black businesses wiped out. Mm-hmm. The black businesses that were still there still couldn't access, listen to me very carefully right now. The black businesses could not access the PPP loans because, one, many of us did not already have loans with banks. The banks were really servicing those who they were already doing business with. But two, the PPP loans require us to have full-time employees. Most black businesses had 1099s. What happened when Biden and Harris was elected? They actually made changes to the PPP loan requirements to assist those for contract workers. It happened under them. Now, pandemic 2020, 2021, 2022, we start coming out of the pandemic, but we're still in it. 2023, I dare say, was the first full year we were not in the pandemic mode. It was still there. COVID was still there. COVID is still here, but we begin to transition out of it. What are we now seeing? We're now seeing changes. So what am I saying? And I've said this before. The fundamental problem that we have faced as African Americans is that in the history of America, we have never had what I call 20 consecutive years of sustained growth.
Yes.
We've never had it. This is how it goes for us. Up, down, increase, retreat, increase, retreat. That's what we've experienced. That's why the phrase says when America gets a cold, Black America gets pneumonia. Those are simply the facts. But what did you hear Quentin say? The wage gap between blacks and whites has decreased. Unemployment down. They have been trying to drive home ownership up. So with all of that happening, please explain to me how, oh my God, this is so awful, this is so bad, and here is the last point, Michael. And this is a fact. It is an undeniable fact. Job growth under Democratic presidents historically has been better than under Republicans. Republicans are excellent at marketing that they are the party of business, so therefore people say, I trust them with the economy. No, you could trust them for tax cuts for big business. So people need to understand facts. I'm not talking emotion. I'm not talking perception. I'm not talking feeling. I'm talking undeniable facts.
Absolutely. And even Donald Trump a few years ago when the video has resurfaced where he said that the economy does better when Democrats are in charge as opposed to Republicans. We know he added $8.2 trillion to the national debt in his 4 years. We know he had the $2 trillion tax cut that helped corporations and the wealthy. But talk about facts. I mentioned this here on the show. Everybody, please read this and stop listening to these disinformation agents. Fact sheet, the Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black Americans and communities across the country. 36-page document at whitehouse.gov breaks down how all these policies help us. Or you could do something as simple as Google, how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped the African-American community? This is the first thing that comes up. We have to do better and stop listening to these uninformed disinformation agents, even the ones with large platforms, because I can listen to them tell they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
John Quayle, I understand folks who say, man, I'm not feeling it. But let me also just remind people of some things as well. I hear this, John Quayle, man, Trump and them stimmies. It was a worldwide emergency. It hadn't happened in 100 years. So if you are sitting out there thinking how great your life was because of them stimmies. Let me be clear. Them stimmies ain't coming back. That ship has sailed. It ain't happening. That PPP loan program, it's not coming back. It's not happening. In fact, many of the programs, the assistance programs, Republicans right now want to cut. But one of the things that people say when they say, man, I'm not feeling this thing, is because many of the programs that were put in place to ease the economic conditions for Americans, they started expiring. Folks, listen. The assistance, the programs where they say they could not expel folks from housing, those began to expire. The home, the daycare, the child care assistance began to expire. All of those things. And so for people who are saying, oh man, under Trump, and here's the other thing that's that's just the dumbest thing. Man, under Trump, man, things were great. 2017, 2018, 2019, we were dealing with the after effects of the Obama economy and all of the hard work that was put in place because of what happened in 2008, 9, 10, and 11. We were booming from 2012 to 2019. Then the pandemic hit 2020. Trump is only there 1 year. Most people actually were under those programs longer under Biden because he became president in 2021, and then you throw in 2022, they started expiring in 2023. And so people need to get that. And we talk about inflation. I saw one of these idiots in the YouTube chat say, oh, yeah, well, inflation. Well, Jonquil, is real simple. All of these businesses, let me remind people, gas companies, other businesses, they were losing crazy amounts of money because guess what? Wasn't nobody buying nothing, traveling nowhere, doing nothing for 2020, 2021. So you know what they started doing in 2022? Jacking up prices. All of these public companies started announcing record profits. That's what was driving inflation. And so this is sort of now where we are. And so people are running around saying, they ain't done this, they ain't done that. But you can look at the facts and go, well, actually they did. And the reason our economy has turned around and we're making headway is because of those things that were done. But anybody, Jonquil, who's running around thinking that they're gonna be raining stimmy checks down like you in a strip club if Donald Trump is elected are outside of their minds.
I tend to absolutely agree with you on that. And furthermore, I think that some people are forgetting that President Obama had, I don't believe it was called an infectious disease group, but he had a group that essentially that would study the infections that were going on worldwide to kind of help prevent the kind of widespread effects that we had with COVID. And when Trump came in, he dismantled that group. And furthermore, when urged to close the U.S. borders, he refused to do it. And so, some would argue that the reason why the country was disenfranchised to the level that it was due to the pandemic was due to Trump's inability to lead this country in the right direction. Because instead of focusing on the important things, he's trying to dismantle everything that President Obama put in place, including Obamacare. So, as stated earlier, there is a lot of misinformation out there. And I just think that, we as a community, we need to stop focusing on the short-term, small little financial giveaways that are given to us. And we have to look at the bigger picture when dealing with these issues.
And I love these people who go, I love these people who say, my life ain't gotten better under Democrats. Okay. Let me be real clear, y'all. Political parties do not control big business. If you want to analyze the economic state of African Americans, see, I'm about to say something about to really tick some of y'all off. If you actually want to talk about the economic state of African Americans, that has nothing to do with politics. Has zero to do. But guess what? If you want to factor in politics, guess who is more likely to be employed in public spaces when Democrats are in control?
Yes, African Americans.
Mm-hmm. I want all y'all listening.
Mm-hmm.
City, working for the city, working for the county, working for the school district, working for the state, working for the federal government. Those are called public workers. I can show you when Republicans take control, guess what they run on? Reduce the size of government.
Yes.
Guess where African Americans disproportionately compared to corporate America earn high 5 and 6-figure salaries? Government jobs. So when Republicans come in and say, we're going to reduce government and we're going to shrink government, that has a disproportionate impact on African Americans because there are more of us, proportion folks, who are in government than in corporate America because they've been freezing us out of corporate America. Those are basic, fundamental economic facts. And Michael, and the reason the housing crisis, and guess one of the first places we begin to see the cracks in 2007 and 2008, I'll never forget, was reading a Wall Street Journal article where they were examining a neighborhood in Detroit, and several of the houses on these streets, they were in foreclosure, and the article said many of the people who are African American living in this area were public workers.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's my city. I've lived in Detroit 52 years. In Detroit and Metro Detroit had one of the largest populations of African American homeowners decades ago, and now we have one of the largest populations of renters today. But very quickly, you're absolutely correct. 18% of African Americans make up 18% of federal employees. We're disproportionately employed there. And even going back to about 1994, 1995, one of my teachers, Dr. Claude Anderson, in the famous speech, said that when you hear conservatives talk about reducing the size of government, especially federal government, they're talking about disemploying African Americans, talking about disemploying black people. But you mentioned the stimulus checks. I got to say this, because people talk about Donald Trump because he put his signature on the stimulus checks. Even Sexy Red brought this up. But under Biden-Harris, you got $1,400 stimulus checks. You got more from Biden-Harris. He just wasn't vain enough to put his signature on the checks. But you don't talk about that. But that came from Congress. The $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. The only reason why that bill passed is because Democrats in the House and Democrats in the Senate voted for it. No Republicans in the House or Senate voted for it. Vice President Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate because you had a 50-50 Senate, and Joe Biden signed it into law. So I don't understand what planet these simple Simon-ass people live on where they hallucinate a reality that does not exist, even if they're on drugs.
Well, I'll tell you why. It is because the platforms that black people watch and listen to spend more time on what's that biggest party and bullshit. They spend more time on that than what we're talking about. And then when the platforms that folks do listen to, or the individuals they listen to, or the entertainers they listen to, these folks are so ill-informed that they are being fed wrong information, misinformation, disinformation, and then we wonder why people are walking around clueless. And I said last night, I don't care who Cat Williams is talking about, because that has literally no impact on any of our lives every single day. And all of the energy that people have spent on who back and forth, who hate, guess what? Right. That ain't changing your economic condition, the housing condition, childcare, education is changing none of that. And so I've made it clear, I'm not gonna waste time on that. We're gonna keep talking about real substantive stuff, because somebody has to be willing to talk about things that matter before it gets bad. Gotta go to a break. We'll be right back. We'll talk about, have our Black and Missing, and also share with you one of my books for this MLK Day weekend. Back in a moment.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Dee Barnes, and next on The Frequency, we're talking about the rise in great Black literature and the authors who are writing it. Joining me will be professor and author Donna Hill, discuss her writing journey and becoming a best-selling author.
I always was writing, but I never saw anybody that looked like me in the books that I was reading.
Plus, her work with the Center for Black Literature and next year's National Black Writers Conference. That's right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show. You're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Cantor Horn disappeared from her Indianapolis, Indiana home on December 5th. The 17-year-old is 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighs 145 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information regarding Carter Horn is urged to call the Indianapolis, Indiana Metropolitan Police Department at 317-327-3155, 317-327-3155. Some heartbreaking news for one of our featured Black and Missing, 42-year-old Harry Keels. Had been found, who has been missing since November 3rd, was found dead in a Washington, D.C. trash can the morning of January 3rd. He was positively identified on Thursday. His autopsy reveals he was shot to death, but it's unclear how long his body was in the trash bin before being discovered. Detectives are investigating his death as a homicide. There is a reward of up to $25,000 for anyone who provides information that leads to an arrest and conviction. Folks say Black Wisconsin family says the police were little to no help in finding their missing 5-year-old. Folks, Triniqua Byers-Smith began to worry when her son Cameron was not home by 5 p.m. She called the school and the bus company, but no one answered. By that evening, she called the police, who told her to search the house and get them more information. That's when the family decided to look for Cameron on their own. Family members, including the child's father, went to the bus company and jumped the fence when they heard a horn honking. Cameron was signaling for help. The kindergartner fell asleep on the bus. Go Right Way, the bus company, provided this statement to a local Wisconsin affiliate yesterday evening. One of our employees did not follow well-established company safety protocols at the end of their shift. We regret the situation occurred and are happy the student was found safe. Go Right Way will continue to fully cooperate with its proper authorities as the investigation takes place. In accordance with our policies, this employee is no longer employed by Go Right Way. Police said Cameron was scared and crying but physically unharmed. John Quayle, what the hell? There should be some cops who are fired for their total inaction.
I agree 100%. I mean, this whole ordeal, upon reading it, is extraordinarily traumatizing. I think one of the things that was troubling is that the last time that this student was seen was in the custody of the school. Yet, from what I gathered from the case of limited knowledge that I do have about it, is that the police were refusing to go to the school and search for this child, and instead was interrogating the parents and would not leave there. And it was the family, through their own diligence, that sought out the child. And frankly, the school is lucky that this child was unharmed, because this case could have turned into a wrongful death case. I mean, it is looking at the weather, just looking at those clips, it was highly disturbing. And it's just very alarming. And, you know, I love that the show does the Black and missing, because we know systematically that missing Black folks goes underreported or it's not newsworthy enough. And here we go with a missing child, and, you know, the family is the one that had to take the action to find the child, not the school. And it doesn't appear that the police did either. And it's really tragic, but it's a blessing that he is unharmed.
Michael.
Yeah, Roland, you know, this is a very tragic story. Even though Cameron is back home, his mother said he was traumatized, not physically hurt, but traumatized. So he may need some therapy as well behind this. There'll probably be hopefully they'll sue and, you know, get a settlement. But the other thing is the procedures. I know that the school district says that, you know, they have procedures and the procedures were being followed. But is something wrong either with your training or your procedures? Just common sense would tell you have to check every seat, every row in the bus, check behind the rows, everything, okay, before you leave that bus.
Look, I agree with that. The big problem I have are the cops. Mm-hmm. They told the family, hey, why don't you search your house? They know their child not home.
Yes.
I mean, the police were grossly indifferent. Had the police done their job, the parents would not have had to jump a fence to go check the bus.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times when it's an African-American child or a teenager who is missing, I don't know all the details here, but there's an indifference many times when it comes to African Americans and being missing, or saying, instead of thinking maybe that person was kidnapped, they say, oh, maybe they just ran away from home. Okay. And so it appears that could be what happened here also. Don't have all the details, but this needs a thorough investigation.
If I may, the big issue, like Roland said, is that the child was last seen at the school. The child was last seen at the school, yet you want to search the parents' home. You should have went to the school. I'm confused as to where the child was last seen.
Crazy.
That you don't go there first.
Crazy. It was total indifference all the way around. I do want to talk about this Ohio story where Ohio grand jury has refused to indict a Black woman for having a miscarriage. Yeah, folks, Turnbull County grand jury issued a no bill in the case of Brittany Watts, who's 34 years old. She was facing a 5th-degree felony abuse of a corpse charge following a miscarriage she had in September. Investigators say that they found the 22-week-old fetus stuck in a toilet at her home and accused Watts of trying to plunge the toilet. Forensic pathologist Dr. George Steinbretz testified during a grand jury investigation that Watts had sought medical treatment twice before the miscarriage. An autopsy found no injury to the fetus and showed it died before passing through the birth canal. Well, this is just shameful that what Republicans have now done as a result of Donald Trump appointing Supreme Court justices overturning Roe v. Wade. They literally are trying to put women in jail. The woman had a damn miscarriage.
You know, you're 100% right. What this also shows, in addition to what the Republicans have been doing, is that as a prosecutor, me being a former prosecutor, as a prosecutor, you have discretion, right? You do not have to charge. You have to look at the facts of the cases, and you have an ethical obligation that if, in fact, that the specific facts does not meet these charges, that you have the ability to not charge this young lady. It is very clear from the facts here that once the medical examiner testified that child passed through a miscarriage, we're not even talking about an abortion. It's a debate about an abortion when it was a miscarriage. Yet you are going to still move forward and attempt to charge this young lady. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. And I think it's an abuse of power. I think it's a situation where she did make some mistakes after the fact, but they certainly did not have to charge her in this case. And I just, thank goodness that they did not move forward with the grand jury indictment, right?
Absolutely. Michael?
Yeah, Roland, having a miscarriage is tragic enough. Before I was born, my mother told me when she was pregnant before me, she had a miscarriage. And it would definitely traumatize a woman when something like this happens. So once again, this is how politics is entering the womb of women. And unfortunately, a lot of people want to say, abortion, that's a white woman's issue. No, we're talking about women's health care, women's reproductive health care. And we're talking about vindictive prosecutors going after women, pushing this right-wing agenda. So once again, this is the example how elections have consequences while voting strategically is so important.
Absolutely. All right, folks, time for my book club recommendation. All right, folks, so this is MLK Day weekend, and obviously most of the focus and the attention is on Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But I'm always trying to remind people that when he won the Nobel Peace Prize and when he accepted the prize in 1964, he actually accepted it on behalf of the movement. What he was saying was, I didn't make this happen, the people made it happen. And that's why he shared the money with various organizations. Now, Coretta Scott King wasn't happy about that because she was like, we need a new house. But that's what he did. So, what many people don't realize, and we always talk about Dr. King and saying how he led the Montgomery protest, the Montgomery Improvement Association. The problem is that's not true. He was the spokesman for the MIA. That's when he obviously gained national attention. But it was a group of women that were leading the efforts in Montgomery, and it was one sister in particular who was leading that particular organization. And so while y'all are out here talking about Dr. King and others, and I have great appreciation and admiration for him, let's not forget people like Joanna Robinson. This book is called The Montgomery Bus Boycott and the Women Who Started It, the memoir of Joanne Gibson Robinson. Joanne Gibson Robinson was a professor at Alabama State University. She actually wrote a letter to the bus company a year before the Montgomery bus boycotts, and 4 days after Brown versus Board of Education. This is, you can't see it because of our lighting here, but this letter, this is the actual letter. It was the Women's Political Council. They were the ones who were leading the efforts in Montgomery long before the black male ministers. And so I'm saying all of this because we need to be expanding our knowledge to understand the heroes and the sheroes that were involved in this effort. Again, and the reason I got this book is because if y'all remember when I interviewed Fred Gray, if you go to the Black Star Network app or go to my YouTube channel, just type in Roland Martin and Fred Gray. Fred Gray tells the story. Fred Gray tells the story. I know y'all are sitting here trying to get a shot of it, so I'm just going to, y'all could put the camera on it here. Fred Gray tells the story of him sitting in a Montgomery, sitting in her kitchen as he and she talked about creating the Montgomery Improvement Association. So you can go to the interview. But again, you want to get this book. It was the women. Drop the lower third, please. It was the women in Montgomery, the Women's Political Council, who were leading many of those efforts, and they were the ones who started the effort that led to the Montgomery Improvement Association. John Quell, just one of those things that, again, we don't talk about the unnamed people. We don't talk about any of them, but y'all, it's real simple. You can't leave this sister out. And so I just think we need to be highlighting people like Joanne Robinson and others.
Agreed. I mean, I agree. I know, of course, there's been a lot of litigation throughout different states about the attempts of trying to eradicate the teaching of African-American history in public schools and just a lot of the battles that are going on in the community and highlighting. I remember even growing up as a child, I loved Black History Month going into February, and I loved learning about our history and not just the famous civil rights activists, but those that also made a difference, that those African Americans that have made it to the national spotlight, they would not have been able to do it without the support of sort of our unsung heroes. So I think that that's very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Michael.
Very quickly, Roland, Joanne Robinson is interviewed in the documentary Eyes on the Prize, and she talks about the Women's Political Council and talks about the Montgomery bus boycott and the role she played in that. I watch it I have the box set on DVD. I watch it every Dr. King Day. And Roland, if you just give me 30 seconds, there are 2 books I want to recommend also. You've mentioned them on the show before, if you don't mind me doing that.
Go. Hurry up, boy. Go.
Okay. Where do we go from here? Chaos or Community, Dr. King's last book he wrote in 1967. He wrote 5 books. People, please read them. And then also this Nonviolent Stuff That Gets You Killed, How Guns Made the Civil Rights Movement Possible by Professor Charles E. Cobb Jr., who you interviewed on News One Now with Roland Martin. And you also had him on your radio show for 2 hours as well, because there was a history of armed resistance during the Civil Rights Movement. And as one of my teachers, Professor James Small, told me, the Civil Rights Movement was not a nonviolent movement. He said if it had not been for Negroes with guns, even before the Deacons for Defense and Justice, there would not have been a Civil Rights Movement. We have to study this history and correct it and correct this misinformation out here.
Oh, absolutely. All right, folks. And so please, get another shot of the book. Come on, another shot of the book. And so y'all go ahead and get that book. And y'all know I'm always moving copies. And so let's be sure to get this book here. Again, the book on Joanne Robinson and the women. Drop the lower third, please. Drop the lower third. Drop the lower third. Thank you very much. The Montgomery bus boycott and the women who started it. A memoir of Joanne Robinson. Be sure to get that. All right, folks. I am going to be, so I got a busy weekend, y'all. So this weekend, tomorrow, I'm going to be in Islip, New Jersey, with the Islip branch and the Black Long Island Islip branch of the NAACP at their 10th annual Legacy Gala and Summit. That's going to be 7 p.m. tomorrow. So I look forward to giving that keynote. On Sunday, go to my iPad, please. I'm going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, for their national celebration. Now, first of all, why y'all using an old photo? That's literally, that photo at least about 15, 20 years old. Y'all, seriously. I got actual updated photos on my website. But again, I'm going to be in Charlotte, 700 West Sugar Creek Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. The program begins at 4 p.m. That is the City of Charlotte's MLK celebration. So I'm going to be there, looking forward to being there. Monday, fam, I'm going to be in Indianapolis, and so y'all can check me out noon Monday in Indianapolis. We're going to be at the Madam Walker Legacy Center, and so that program begins Monday at 12 noon as well. Looking forward to being there. It's going to be a one-on-one conversation moderated by Carolyn Mays, and my homegirl, Brittany Noble, is going to be emceeing it. So looking forward to seeing y'all in Indianapolis. I will have copies of my book, White Fear, with me as well, plus my book, The First President Barack Obama's Road to the White House. And we'll be, I believe, Sunday and Monday events will be live streamed. So we'll make sure that you can check that out tomorrow. It may be live streamed, but I know I'm going to be recording as well. So we'll have that for you. And later tonight, I spoke at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville yesterday at the MLK celebration. We'll be streaming my speech yesterday tonight right here on the Black Star Network. You do not want to miss that. Y'all know I didn't mince words when I spoke to them there. So look forward to that. John Quell, thanks for joining us. Michael, thanks for joining us as well. We appreciate it. Y'all have a great weekend. Folks, don't forget, support us in what we do. Join our Bring the Fuck fan club. You can send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And as always on Fridays, we run all of the names of the people who have contributed to our show since our inception. You can add your name to it by giving to our fan club. Folks, I'll see y'all on Monday. I'll be broadcasting live from Indianapolis on MLK Day.